I show up like 7
We've actually got
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of Newark City Council to order. Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Barker,
here.
Mr. Blake,
Here.
Mr. Fennell,
Here.
Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Labutus.
Here.
Mr. Lang,
Present.
Mr. Marmy,
Present.
Mr. Rath.
7 here or present this evening. Next on the agenda, we have the invocation by Mr. Labutus. Would you please rise?
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, for the coming to prayer this evening, we thank you for this day that you've given us to serve you, and to serve our community. I just ask that you be with us this evening in our legislation, in our conversations, as we hear from community members as well. As we move forward this evening, help us to remember to always keep your vision for our community in mind as we make our decisions. Bless our time this evening. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Please remain standing. Next, we have Ellie Bishop from Ben Franklin Elementary, 5th grade. Also, her principal, Mrs. Cable's here. She's going to lead us in the pledge. Go ahead, Ellie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Thank you. Nice job. Next on the agenda this evening, we have caucus. That's the time for council to discuss anything pertaining to the agenda tonight. Do we have anything? Mr. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to excuse Ms. Hall and Mr. Rath.
Motion to excuse Mr. Rath and Ms. Hall, second by Mr. Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. Anything else under caucus? Next, we have the minutes of our October 4th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve those? Motion by Mr. Labutus, second by Mr. Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. We have no appointments this evening. We have 2 reports from standing committees tonight, one from finance and one from service. Without objection, those will be received and filed. Reports from city officials tonight. We have one from our interim auditor, the operating report for the period ending September 30th, 2021. And we have one from Brenda Cooper, our tax administrating office, the income tax report for the period ending September 30th, 2021. Without objection, those will be received and filed. We have 3 communications this evening from Ohio Division of Liquor Control. One notification of the current application name of Incredible Pizza Company from the original name of Incredible Pizza Company. It's now Incredible Pizza Company LTD. Another one from liquor permit application for Jeffrey Justice, DBA Cedar 144 Cedar Street, first floor and basement. I'm not sure if that's Cedar Grill or not. And the other one is the liquor permit applications for Speedway, DBA Speedway on East Main and Church Street, 21st Street, and East Main. Without objection, those will all be received and filed. Next on the agenda tonight, we have comments from citizens. That's a time for you to be heard. This is not a debate with council or a question and answer period. This is just an opportunity for you to speak. If we have anyone in this first section would like to speak, if you please raise your hand. There's also a second section after the legislation. So we have anyone in this first section? Ma'am, you'll come on up. I just ask you give us your name and address for the record. Do we have anyone else while she's coming up that would like to speak? Okay, ma'am, go right ahead.
My name is Mabel Broughton, and I live on Wright Drive. And I am very, very upset with what's happening at the corner of Wright Drive and Little Farm. There's been 2 great big pieces of past houses put down there, and they're just sitting there. And the thing is, they brought those down on a Sunday, which is when everybody moves stuff, right? a half a house. And one part got there about 4:30, and the other part there got there at 7 o'clock that night. And since then, there's been people down there after it's dark out with flashlights. It's not a very comfortable feeling to have those kind of things going on in your neighborhood. And then I have been told that if you move something like that on a piece of property, you have 10 days to do something with it. Well, it's like 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's still sitting there, honey. Nothing's been done. And it's very discouraging. I'm scared to death that homeless people are going to come in, and I'm afraid that we can end up with a fire. And if it catches on fire, that could endanger a lot of houses. And I don't know why, when there is a law that says you can't put it there and not do something with it within 10 days, that nothing's been done. So that's my complaint. And I certainly hope that you wonderful people will see to it that something's done about it. You wouldn't want that in your neighborhood. And guess what? I don't want it in my neighborhood either.
Thank you, ma'am. I will say, I do know a little bit about this situation. I know they started about a year ago on this, doing some excavating, et cetera. I know the engineering department was notified. There was no permit at that point in time, and then it's been about a year later. Like you said, the two halves of the trailer have been moved in there. There wasn't any permit at that point in time either. I do understand now that they're questioning where the survey line is and if the foundation he has poured meets the setback. So there is a stop work order on it from what I understand. But my suggestion, and Director Rhodes, I don't know where he is, we've talked, Director Rhodes has spoken, and we'd like to have Director Rhodes, the engineering department, the law director's office, myself, and maybe 2 or 3 folks of the neighbors that would like to get together. We'll have a little meeting. We'll discuss where that is right now, what's happened, and what the rules are and where we are. So if you're interested in being one of those folks, stick around after the meeting, come up and give Janine your name and contact. So that's where we are on that so far. Sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dave Lipstrew. I live at 40 North 40th Street, and I'm here to request council's help in getting the speed under control on North 40th Street. Everybody's aware that we've had a lot of work done there. There's still a final code of payment that needs to go on, but it doesn't really affect the speeding that's been going on there, which actually occurred even when there was no payment down. It's excessive, and I've had some discussions or some email exchanges with Councilman Rath. And I understand there's a procedure that the city needs to go through in terms of determining traffic volumes, and if bumps or whatever type of traffic calming would be put in place, how that would be justified. But in the interim time, I'm really concerned that there's going to be a bad accident, that somebody's going to get killed. A lot of kids in the area that play in the street, irrespective of the sidewalks being there, they don't stay on the sidewalk. So any assistance, even if we could get a trailer out there with a speed flashing thing from the police department, it might help us slow people down. And I really would appreciate your help. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Yep, you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this first section? Again, there's another section after the legislation. Again, just give us your name and address for the record. And if you take your mask off so I can hear because my hearing is shot. Thank you.
So Kim Blaney, and the home address or domicile is 1407 Misty Glen. Lifelong resident Newark. And so anyway, I want to speak a second time on Rice Street, but I just thought I'd mention real quick. The squad took me to the hospital. You know, I got an email from me, and it's kind of interesting to have 4 members of the squad in your family room. And I said, I think I'll just have my wife take me when she gets home. And they said, well, stroke or a heart attack, I think we recommend you go. So anyway, high blood pressure, might be some stress related to that. So what I wanted to say is, I'm not sure I really wanted to bring this up, but I don't really care if people know me as Ken or Ken, and I'm pretty chill with that. But if somebody keeps referring to me as he, sometimes I'll just politely say her. But I think there might have been one or two. And again, these guys came, maybe saved my life. I'm not here to criticize them, but maybe they could have, when I handed around it, I'm a her now. I don't know. I don't know if there's a policy. I'm not here to complain about that. It's just a suggestion. That seems reasonable. I don't know, maybe it ties in with our, accepting here. I don't know. It was just something I wanted to add. Maybe you actually get more comfortable speaking. So I'll speak on my other issue the second time. Thank you.
Okay,
That's
thank you. We're going to go on to ordinances on the second reading. We have none tonight. Next, we'll go to ordinances on the first reading, 21-33.
Ordinance number 21-33 by Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, an ordinance accepting the dedication and public use of additional right-of-way at the intersection of Mount Street and North 21st Street.
21-33 will be held to our next meeting on November 1st. Next, on the first reading, we have 21-34.
Ordinance number 21-34 by Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, an ordinance accepting the dedication to public use of the streets in Connors House subdivision, phase 1.
And 21-34 on the first reading will be held till November 1st to our next meeting. Now we'll go on to resolutions on the second reading.
Resolution number 21-61 by Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, and Mr. Harris. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio to negotiate and enter into contract to provide water service to the Licking Valley Water District.
You've heard the second reading of 21-61. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
make a motion to adopt resolution 21-61.
Motion by Mr. Marmy,
Second.
second by Mr. Harris. Is there any discussion on 21-61? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Begg?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
21-61 passes 7-0. Next, on the second reading, we have 21-62.
Resolution number 21-62 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Mr. Harris, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
For the second reading of 21-62, what is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
make a motion to adopt resolution 21-62.
Motion by Mr. Marmy,
Second.
second by Mr. Labutus. Do we have any discussion on 21-62? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Begg?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
21-62 passes 7-0. And finally, we go on to resolutions on the first reading, 21-63.
Resolution number 21-63 expedite by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, and Mr. Harris. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
21, Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 21-63.
Motion to waive the 2-day rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lyon. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. We need to expedite this. These are some payouts, and we always want to make sure we get the money to the individuals as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Janine, please call the roll to waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Begg?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
2-day reading rules waived. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt resolution 21-63.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lyon. Is there any other discussion on 21-63? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Begg?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
21-63 passes 7-0. And finally, tonight, on the first reading, we have 21-64.
Resolution number 21-64 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Barker. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into contract for the provision of necessary services regarding the composting, recycling, and disposal of leaves, brush, grass, trees, and stumps without competitive bidding.
And 21-64 will be held 2 weeks until our next meeting on November 1st. And that concludes our legislation tonight. Thank you. Next on the agenda, one more time, we have comments from citizens. Again, this is not a debate with council. This is just your time to be heard. Would anyone like to speak this section? And we'll start with you, ma'am. Anyone? Sir in the back, hang on. Anyone else like to speak?
Linda Mossholder, 224 Green Meadow Drive in Newark. First of all, I would like to acknowledge some of the comments that were made by citizens at the last meeting. Problems with people either on their property or trespassing. One of the women was talking about a woman who, without clothes, was dancing on her porch. After the meeting, I did discuss this with the woman who talked. I believe I know who this person is. We have seen her at the outreach and have had to ask her to leave the property. I've also seen her in the warming center 2 winters ago. We had to actually call someone and have her be removed then. So she has multiple mental health issues and obviously some serious substance abuse issues. I just want to make it clear that the homeless outreach does not tolerate anyone who is committing a crime. I have been there for over 3 years. I have never been fearful of being there. In the 3 years I've been there, we've had to ask only 2 people to leave the premises because they were not acting appropriately. I also would like to just talk a little bit about some of the other things that we do at the outreach. This coming Saturday, we are partnering with the South Central Outreach Wellness Center to provide free Hep C testing. This is a common thing that happens in the population. It is free for anybody, not just anybody who may be without shelter. I spent the morning, I dropped off flyers at Job and Family Services, Vertical, and the men's shelter and the main place, letting them know the availability of that. Every week, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Narcan. Narcan is the overdose reversal drug. We give out Narcan up to 50 to 60 doses of Narcan each week. This is a overdose. If someone was overdosing, it can save their lives. We have had people come and thank us for the Narcan because they had used it to save some people's lives. We partner with a lot of agencies. We have partnered with the health department. They have come and give COVID shots at the outreach. One of the women who came and got a COVID shot was unable to get to the health department or was unable to get anywhere else to get her shot. So she was able to get it because she lives in the East End. We've also had the health department come and give us Hep A shots, which prevents disease being transferred. In addition to the hepatitis C testing, we will have Family Health Services present at the outreach on Saturday to do HIV testing. In addition to the testing, if somebody does test positive for Hep C, we will make arrangements for that person to get treatment. Hep C treatment is extremely expensive, and we will be able to get them treatment in the form of a pill for no cost. If they test positive for HIV, we will also be able to connect them. All of these things help keep the citizens in our city safe. It's not just the people who are unsheltered, but all of these are transferable diseases and can be transferred to the general population. So I just wanted to make sure that just passing out fentanyl testing strips is not the only thing we do at the outreach. We are trying to work with other agencies to make sure we can get services. For several months now, I've been asking for an outreach person from the Housing Coalition to come down for 2 hours on a Saturday, once a month, and to do outreach present on our site. We will provide a table, we will provide other things, but we just want to make sure that people can talk to somebody where they're at. During COVID, I understood that, the office door was closed at the outreach. They could make an appointment by phone, but asking somebody who maybe is unsheltered, may not have a phone, and then trying to make an appointment. If they could be present at the outreach, they could make an appointment then. The only people who can verify homelessness is the Housing Coalition. So we cannot say we have viewed you. With the transient population, somebody could be in South End one day, they could be in the East End another day. So if they would come to the outreach, the person could tell them where to meet them and they could start the process. if we're going to solve the homeless issue in this community, we need to all work together. I understand that the request that I made for the fentanyl testing strips, because I did not apply for community block development grant monies, that probably it will not be honored. Again, I am willing to take off the request for the disposable food containers. That was our way of trying to prevent people from touching things at the outreach all during COVID. We did not miss any, we have not missed a Saturday in 3 years. We served people all during COVID. We were careful. We tried to do social distancing. But I would still like the to be considered for the American Rescue Funds for the fentanyl testing strips. And they're about $3,100. So I still would like that to be considered. I would be happy to ask any questions. If anybody would like Narcan, our churches also, through the state, there was some grants available. So we have, so churches are now distributing Narcan. And we have, I know at my particular church, we have probably about, I took one, so we have 499 the little kits of Narcan. This is a life-saving drug. I keep it in my car because you just never know. Just an example that not only do people who are unsheltered come and get Narcan and testing strips, we have a woman who comes every week to get Narcan and fentanyl testing strips because her son is an active user. He is not homeless. She's afraid that he's going to die. So she comes and get these kits. So I just wanted to make sure that you know that the homeless outreach does not condone behavior that is criminal or, somebody disturbing the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, if anyone else wants to speak, last chance. Yeah, did you want to speak? That's all. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thomas Bruner, 419 South Second Street, Newark. Over the weekend, I had a traumatic experience. I always cut my grass on Thursday or Friday. So Friday, I was cutting my grass out back. I own a little over half acre behind my home on Second Street. And as I was going back towards the wooded area, I noticed a bicycle. I found several of them back there before. I called Newark PD, have them come and pick them up. I figure they're stolen. Well, as I got closer to the bicycle, I seen a head. And as I got closer, there was flies all over this head. There was a deceased body in my backfield. I don't know what's going on, whether the city's concerned about the homeless people or whatever, or the people that's drug addicts or whatever, but it needs to stop. I'm glad I found it, not my 5-year-old granddaughter, my 2-year-old grandson, or my daughter, my wife. I'm having trouble right now sleeping at night because of this. It was an experience I don't want anybody to see. And now we got a house next to us that caught fire back in August. And the house has been empty since August. The lady decided she didn't want to rebuild, so she got her insurance money and she moved somewhere else and she put her property up for sale. It's sold. It's been, the sold time's been there for 2 weeks. Somebody's kicked in the back door of it already. Now, I mean, something's got to be done about the homeless people. I mean, they're just doing what they want when they want. And we have no control of it. I mean, I found human where they use the bathroom out in my backfield. And I have to clean that up. I don't know if you want to clean it up, but I don't want to run my mower through it or step in it. So it has to be cleaned up. And it's terrible. And we got some apartments around me that don't have the best tenants. So I think this needs to be looked into. We need some help. I can sit on my front porch for days and never see a Newark officer in the area. Never. But I can see a Utica police officer in the area. I can see a Heath police officer in the area. Sheriffs go up and down by there. But I never see a Newark officer. Never. The only time you see one's if they got a call. I think it's time they start patrolling the area a little bit and doing their job. I mean, this is getting really, really bad. I don't know how bad you think it is, but come across what I come across and see how you feel. So I'd appreciate if we could get some help. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, any I say,
I'll go
you're next, you're next.
last.
Hello, my name is Kim Witzberger, and I'm speaking on behalf of my mom, Kate Sheriff. She's right back there. But she also lives on South Second Street, and she's just being victimized and bullied by the people in the neighborhood. She's lived there since 1964. It was a very nice neighborhood at one time, but it is just being overrun by, I don't know if they're homeless, I don't know where they're coming from, but there's people on bicycles with backpacks constantly riding up and down through her yard. We've asked them not to do that, they continue. They have recently broken into her shed, stole tires and rims out of the shed. My brothers put cameras up to try and correct that issue. We have the adjoining property to Mr. Bruner that just spoke, so it's a body issue. Not so long ago, there was a random car parked in her backyard. She called the police department because there were 2 people passed out in the car in her backyard. They came and they knocked on the window and said, "You gotta leave." And then they left and left her to deal with them. So, I mean, something has to be done to help these people. They've lived there for a very long time. Okay, and they just want to live their life too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am,
You'll get my tape. You don't mind if I don't, right? But I just for my own record. No. Okay, so.
again, name and address for the record, please.
Okay, sure. Still Kim Blaney, drop that, 1407 Misty Glen. And it's interesting to be this room. My mom was tax commissioner. I see that the tax commissioner's here or somebody from the tax office. So my kids kind of grew up with grandma being the tax commissioner, Bev Blaney. And I guess for 20 years, I was the Parks and Recreation rep for the Catholic school system. So the kids kind of preferred to sit in the mayor's seat when they came down here. So that was, I feel comfortable here. Hopefully I'm always comfortable or welcome here in Newark. I gave you a copy of this, the Crow subdivision. And so we and my kids own Rice Rail property. Some of them are mine and my wife's name or my former name. And so kind of like the Johnny Cash song, we've actually bought the whole neighborhood or one piece at a time. So we own everything on this street, but 2286, the land bank owns it. And down at the end on the Crow, there's 3 lots, 2279, 2280, and I think they made it into 4 lots. But there's now an open alley, so we developed this. It's like a cul-de-sac, or those people can get around. So what I'd like to do on this, and actually the city engineer, we don't. Most of this, but not all of it, and we were going to make it into 3 parcels. And at his recommendation, just a conversation, we bought the other property, so his suggestion was that we would, ask the street to be abandoned, but we've never got any far, made that happen. So somehow with COVID, his office is closed, and I think they work with JDR down in the old, if that is the name of the company, down in the old library. So somehow I need to get some engineering print, or I need to get something, because I think there's an order that's like in series. So you go to the engineering office first. I don't know if we can kind of maybe make an exception and just say, hey, look, let me take this, the planning, and after planning says, hey, this is a good idea, I'll spend thousands on a engineering plan, and then I'll spend tens of thousands tearing. We do own everything, and even though we don't really want to go around and say it, most of it is paid for. So we'd like to give some of the tenants, some time to move out, but we think we could take this down. Now, I know it's just next to the railroad. I think the mayor pointed it out. But when you own that much property, it is 21st Street. It's a quarter mile from potentially a World Heritage site. And if that does happen, maybe someplace somebody could sit in a train car, which is already there. Maybe something just to do. So it's kind of an idea I've had for 43 years. I just like to move it forward by somehow getting it at the planning commission. If we go out of order, whatever. So, and if they say no, I'll sell it individually and move out of Newark. I think that's what you guys prefer. That is okay. So anyway, just like to, somebody tell me what to do. Maybe the engineer could tell me what diagrams he needs. Or somebody could kind of guide me through this process to get this one. Noah did it in 40 years. It took me 43 to buy up the whole thing. I'd like to make it into one commercial property, 2-3 acres. That's it. I mean, I'm sorry to come down here. Maybe I wear out my welcome, but we just like to, as you can tell, it's kind of stressful. Sent me to the hospital, high blood pressure. So, I mean, there's a squad record of that, So I'd like to kind of, I don't know, somebody help me make this happen. I don't know.
Your question is, you're trying to vacate Wright Street and you'd like to know.
That
how to
was
do
the
That's your
city
question.
engineer's suggestion, and because I said we owned one end of Rice and the other end, and we owned the whole south block. So, he said, why don't you just make it one parcel? I said, can't. We don't own that. He says, well, so we paid good money for it. And sometimes when you assemble something, Mr. Rhodes and I talked about that before, that, so we got the whole doggone thing for whatever it's worth. It's got a theme next to the railroad. Instead of saying that's a detriment, maybe it's an asset. So it's too much stress. Spent my whole life on this project. Somehow, let's see if we can get it through planning commission. They say no, I'll move on in life. Does that seem fair? Anybody? I don't know. It's just, you can help us. Thank you. I know you can do it. Thank you. I'll come back sometime. All right, it was fun.
All right. This is Paul. This is Paul.
Janine Paul, 1435 Amesbury Lane. First, let me say that I'm speaking tonight as a citizen, not as the clerk of council. And I'd like to thank President Ellington and Director Rose for getting involved in trying to help with the situation that we have. And I'd also like to thank Joe Paul and Rob and Property Maintenance for their help. There's 3 reasons why I'm here tonight to speak. The first is because I think that the zoning inspector has failed the residents of the city. The second reason is because there are ordinances that are knowingly not being enforced. And the third reason is because ordinance 8-33, the zoning code for the city, really needs to be changed. I moved back here, I'm reading this so I don't miss anything. I moved back here about 2 years ago in what I think is a nice neighborhood. For most people, and in my case, their home's the biggest investment they'll ever make. There's a lot next to me that's been vacant, except for the garage. Since I moved in, they always did a pretty good job of keeping the grass mowed. And then the new owner took over. He started excavating last October. Last October 12th, I sent an email to George and I said, George, what's going on with construction on this lot? And also I asked about permits for septic tanks because they were installing a septic tank. He replied to me and he said, septic tanks are done by permit handled by the health department and I'll look into the zoning. And he never did it. This was last year. So I checked the health department. They did have a permit for that. So winter came and the work stopped and the guy left the lot with footers dug, mounds of dirt, so it couldn't be mowed when springtime came. So the weeds grew as tall as a person. So I contacted Joe and Property Maintenance and they haven't cut the weeds down. Right after that happened, the guy came back, started excavating again. He was redigging footers. He was whatever he was doing. He had a backhoe over there. I emailed George at least 3 times, maybe more than that. I emailed George or talked to George and said, George, do they have a permit? What's going on? What's going on? Nothing was done. So on the 11th of September, I emailed them and said, I took a picture. They had it posted on the doorway, a state permit for a manufactured home on the doorway of the garage. So I took a picture of it and I emailed it to George. I said, here's the state permit. Have they gotten a permit from you? And he said, no, that's just the first step though, and I'll look into it. But he didn't. On the 19th of September, before that, footers were poured with concrete. On the 19th of September, like this lady said, 2 pieces of a double wide were hauled in there. Right now, they've been sitting there for a month. One of them is still attached to the semi truck that's sitting right on my lot line, barely off the street. It's been sitting there for a month. I understand he put a stop work order on it. So because he did that, and the only reason he did that is because Director Rhodes got involved, I believe. Nothing was gonna get done until Director Rhodes got involved. He put the stop work order on, so that's still sitting there. So in the meantime, we're looking at what looks like a junkyard right next to us. We got 2 pieces of a double wide trailer that's not even a new double wide trailer. This trailer is 16 years old. It's trashed inside and out. Doesn't even have an electrical panel in it. It's been torn out. We've got a bulldozer sitting there. We've got a trailer with piles of concrete blocks sitting there. Supposedly that can sit there for 12 to 24 more months, according to George. So, in addition to all this, the double wide was hauled there by this truck. The oversized load was hauled here without a permit. There was no permit. I asked the engineering office if there was a permit, and they said no. And I said, okay, I want to file a complaint that they didn't use a permit. And I was told that they're sure that there's oversized loads hauled on the city streets all the time that they aren't aware of. And it used to be enforced by the police department. They used to weigh them by axle, but they haven't done that for several years. So then the ordinance speaks to requirements for obtaining a permit and about fines for not following the ordinance. So I asked about that, and I was told that in the last 12 years that we've had the administration of the zoning code, the directive and process has been to try to bring those who violate the letter of the code into compliance rather than to burden the law department with several misdemeanor cases of non-compliance and then enforcement of a $500 fine. So what's the point of having permits and ordinances if we're not going to enforce them? What's the point? If you think I'm frustrated and I'm upset, you're right. The entire neighborhood's upset about this. Our neighborhood is being ruined and our property values are being negatively affected because the zoning inspector failed to do his job a year ago. Also, the ordinance needs changed. Right now, there's one small paragraph in the entire ordinance that talks about manufactured homes on city residential lots. And this is what it says. It says, no person shall occupy a manufactured home on any premises in the city of Newark outside an approved manufactured home park without first obtaining a zoning permit for such use from the zoning inspector. That's it. Then it says, the parking or storage of an unoccupied manufactured home shall not be permitted for more than 10 days other than on a lot approved for sale of such units. A trailer like this doesn't belong on any lot in the city. I'm sorry, it doesn't belong on any lot in the city. Unfortunately, I resigned myself to the fact that I'm going to end up with a double wide trailer on the lot next to me. And my neighborhood and all of our property values are going to be ruined. But I'd like to ask 2 things of the council. First, I'd like you to please change this ordinance so this does not happen to another neighborhood. It could be your neighborhood. And second, I would like to ask why we, as law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, should have to live for months with what looks like a junkyard next to us. I mean, it's already been there for a month. All of this that were to cater to someone who doesn't live in the city, who hasn't followed any of the laws, and he hasn't even paid his property taxes on that lot this year. It's in arrears. Thank you.
Could I say something else pertaining to this? The truck.
Come up here and do it quickly.
My name is Mabel Broughton and I live on Newark Drive. And the truck that pulled this mess in there doesn't even have a license plate. But it came through Newark and hauled this junk in there and nobody said anything to him about it. Hey buddy, if you're gonna be hauling stuff, you need a permit and you need a license plate. So these people don't care. They're not paying any attention to any laws. So it's time somebody stepped in and said, enough, get this junk out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any city officials this evening?
I just add a little bit. Very little.
Okay, come on up.
My name is Earl Redmond. I live right across from the new trailer park that Janine spoke of. I know for years and years, I owned a trailer, put it on a lot in Newark back in 1961. At that time, it was legal, but then I thought they made it illegal. But apparently not, because this is nothing but a double wide trailer that I'm looking at out my front window. And just wanted you to know my feelings. Thank you.
Thank you. Auditor Bell.
Thank you very much. I will just be very brief this evening. First off, it's a pleasure serving with all of you for the past many years here on the Newark City Council. Very much an honor. I'd like to introduce, I introduced most of you to our new deputy auditor, Mr. Jim Wyson. In the back there tonight, just a few items real quick. We hit the ground running on Thursday. Transition has been very smooth. Staff has just been remarkable. We have a retirement coming in the office with the cooperation of the Human Resources Department. We got the hiring process expedited. We are in the second step of the bargaining process. So hopefully we'll be doing some interviews soon. Myself, along with Jim Weiss and Jackie Prince, will be conducting those interviews. I'll keep you posted on that. We also just completed, or just about completing, a rather lengthy questionnaire. Why it wasn't done earlier, I don't know. It should have been done in September for the state audit that's going to occur. They're putting an RFP out for an audit that will happen yearly, 21 through 25. So that is just about completed. Very productive meeting today regarding city debt. Have also started working on the budget process. We do own the revenue side of the budget. I would encourage you, if you have any ideas or any questions, concerns about expenditures, talk to the mayor, service director, any department head. With that, thank you very much.
Any other city officials this evening? Our new Honorable Law Director Moore.
Good evening. So this is my first official council meeting as the new law director. I got sworn in with Mr. Buff, so all congratulations as well. I realize I got a big job ahead of me, and I'm up for the challenge, and I look forward to it. I attended my first block watch meeting the Thursday I was sworn in. With also Councilman Marmy, Councilman Harris. And, you know, we hear a lot of the same stuff throughout the city. People wandering the streets, people in your yards, wondering when things are going to change and how we're going to change them. What I would encourage you, and this isn't going to be an easy fix and it's not going to be an overnight fix, but we're working. And what I would encourage you to do is to continue to report it to the police. And, you know, I've been in the criminal area, I think I said this last time, for 17 years. I know that Newark is working hard and they're doing it and probably understaffed. But they are working hard. I can tell you by the amount of charges I get from them, they're working hard. But you just have, please keep reporting. And then when the police do show up, please make witness statements so that then when it gets handed to the prosecutors, we can go forward and prosecute them. Without witnesses, without people willing to make statements and show up to court, sometimes multiple times, we can't do it, but we need you to cooperate with us. So that would be my piece of advice. And then we'll just keep fighting and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Hall.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Tricia into the new position as law director and my partner in crime up there. And I will welcome Ryan as the auditor and certainly Jim Wyson as a deputy auditor. And it's kind of we got a change in the guard. Shirley Brandy Cooper in the tax office too, took over a tax administrator back in July. So we've got a few new people in good spaces and that's always good. So with that, we look forward to the future. With that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things this evening. I want to thank Director Hickman for taking my call as he was headed out of town on an issue over 7th Ward that I was made aware of. And we finally have all that information that we'll be able to get over to the director tonight from that resident. Just a couple safety concerns like we've heard in the past, some things that we need to work on and we will work on. I just want to thank Director Rhodes for his help on a couple property maintenance issues that we've had around the city. He is always eager to take the call and eager to help, so I appreciate that. I would want to thank Law Director Moore for some help she gave me on some interesting emails I was getting from someone. So I appreciate her help on that. And also congratulations to her. I was able to attend her swearing in. Large, great crowd of people to support her family, everyone. And then also want to congratulate Auditor Bub and Director Auditor Weissett. Welcome. Ryan, it's been great serving with you. We have known each other since I was very little. Yeah, when I was that little, long time ago. But I am happy to see you in the auditor position and look forward to working with you here in the future. Thank you. With that, I'll pass.
All you had to do is tell me and I'd quit emailing.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to just congratulate Law Director Moore, now officially in your position. Congratulations there. Looking forward to working with you on some very serious issues that are before our citizens. Obviously, we also thank Auditor Bub, being high school graduates and now being our city auditor. Congratulations to you, and I'm looking forward to working with you in that capacity. So both welcome there. I guess I just want to recognize Mr. Brunner, your comment, because I mean, what you just shared with us is a very traumatic experience, something that typically we see on television. You know, when we come across a dead body on our property, and so not only just the experience of you seeing that and having to go through that, and then having the police and fire department come and remove that body from your property, but then you also spoke about your grandkids and the trauma that comes from that whole experience, and now even the sleeplessness and things that you're going through. I know the day of the event you gave me a call, and I'm glad that you did. And so I thank you for coming and publicly sharing that experience, because we have had many citizens come in and out of this room now talking about this concern. And I am hopeful that Law Director Moore will take, theft, property damage, trespassing, what your neighbors have experienced. All these are crimes. And so anyone that is committing a crime, then we need to make those arrests and then get those prosecuted. And so I'm hopeful that we can move in that direction to do so. But it is going to take all of us to do this. We've had many conversations now, even just this year and even previous years, dealing with the homeless situation. And in my mind, the bigger issue being just drug addiction and substance abuse that's going through our city. And so I'm hopeful that we can even have some further discussions about, how is it that the police chief is handling these calls? What resources do we need to get to him? It's to the staff, to our officers. How can we better support them so that they can handle these types of situations in a more effective way? And so, if we need to have hearings on that, to have those open discussion and dialogue, then we need to do that as a council so we can move forward and have some solutions for many people that are experiencing homeless, these types of traumatic experiences. And so I just want to recognize and thank you for coming in tonight and sharing that with your city officials. So thank you for doing that. I do have some thank yous that I want to give out, though. The chief himself, he has helped me on some other issues that I've had with residents. Property maintenance department has been helpful in some areas, and I do want to thank one of your comments too. I mean, I think the work that you and the volunteers there are working on, so I appreciate your comments for coming in tonight. Just want to share some success, so it's not all just the negativity. There are some success things. About a month or so ago, the Director Motter and the South North Civic Association, they all hosted a breakfast down at St. John's Church. And from that, we had low attendance at the actual event. But from that, people have been reaching out about some of the programming. I know I sent Director Motter an email about a gentleman that wants some assistance with sidewalks. There's a woman that wants some assistance from leaves with a porch. And then Leeds is also helping another resident with some improvements with the senior citizen. So even though the event was not necessarily well attended, the word has gotten out about the programs. And so I think that's important. And so, thank you, Director Mater. You got my email about that? Okay. So I wanted to just make sure that we know that things are getting out there. People are talking about that. So with that, Mr. President, I'll yield.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Mr. Fennell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to congratulate Director Moore and Auditor Bub. Thank you. It was a pleasure serving on council with you, and I'm sure that you will provide service to the city in your current role. So congratulations on that.
Thank
you. One thing I just wanted to comment on, I mean, I took a lot of notes tonight. A lot of people said some incredibly difficult things, even to hear. So I can't imagine what that would be like to actually experience it directly. And I do appreciate you coming forward and speaking. Also, Janine, that couldn't have been easy coming up and speaking. So thank you for doing that. That took courage. And coming out and speaking and letting people know is really how you engage with this process. And I think that from the outpouring that we've seen this evening, we've received some messages. And these are things that I believe that everybody up here wants to find solutions to and wants to help, because you're right, we all live here too. These are our neighborhoods as well. We want to make them as safe as possible. And at the same time, we need to honor the work that is trying to be done with people who are experiencing homelessness right now in our community. This has been a really difficult time for everyone. And I work at a public library, and for a while there, our biggest concern was people coming in who were experiencing homelessness, or people who were coming in with addiction, and that went away, but it didn't. It is still a problem. It's still out there, and we still have work to do. Just know that the people sitting up here, while we don't engage with you while you are speaking, we hear you. You write down what you're saying. You're working to try and help. It's not a fast process, but there are processes in place, and you have good people trying to do the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell. Mr. Harris?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Ellie Bishop for coming in doing the pledge tonight. Her parents and grandparents own Two Tall's Pizza, so if you guys are down that way, grab a pizza from them. Also want to thank Mr. Wall that was here earlier to talk to us about the parks. We have some great parks in Licking County and some great things they're doing, and I appreciate the talk that he gave us. And I want everybody to know that everyone up here listens to what everyone says. We all care. If we didn't care, we wouldn't be up here. Sometimes it's difficult for the police to get to you when you need him ASAP. But I want you to know that the safety director, he was sitting right here. As you guys were speaking, he was writing things down. So he is aware of what's going on. They're going to get out there. They're going to do their best to help, solve the problem. You're speeding on 40th Street. We should be able to help you with that. And I just want everybody to know that we do care, we do listen. The people here on Wright Street. I think if we get that meeting set up, I think we get a better understanding, get some better answers. Make you guys feel better. So hopefully we can get that meeting set up. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Bub and Mrs. Moore for their new positions. And I know you guys will do well. Brian, it's great serving with you on council. Got a lot more room up here tonight. So, wish you guys the best, Mr. Wyson too. So with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Labutus?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to thank everyone who turned out this evening and sharing your concerns, as Mr. Harris said. We all listen and we all care. so someone definitely want to be able to do that. I'd also like to thank property maintenance for helping me with a couple issues in my ward as well. And I also like to welcome Director Moore to your position. You've done great things for the city folks so far, and look forward to seeing what you do in the future. And for Auditor Bob, it's my pleasure serving with you. And I'm just happy to sit next to me, but glad we get to work together as well. Deputy Auditor Wiseman, welcome. Look forward to working with you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lang.
Yeah, thank you. This first, Janine and everybody else who spoke about the situation on Wright Street. Hopefully that meeting will help resolve some of those issues. Janine, if you could send me the ordinance you mentioned, or I guess I can pull from the minutes, I'll take a look at that. Work with Trish and the law director, his office there to see if that needs to be reviewed and updated. Mr. Bruner, I don't know what to say except I'm sorry. That was really hard to hear, and I'm sure that was a really difficult thing for you to. I don't have words, so I'll just say I'm sorry, and hopefully we can do better in the future. Getting you some support and getting patrol out in that area of town. And then I guess last, I'll just welcome Trish and Ryan and Jim. Congrats on your new roles, and I look forward to working with you. That'll pass. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lang and Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Need to call a finance committee meeting for the 1st of November.
And service.
Oh, and service. Okay.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to congratulate our new law director. And I also appreciate her coming out to the Block Watch meeting on Thursday and speaking to all of you, and her words and what she said about making sure that you file a report, become a witness, and willing to come to court. It is so true, so helpful, because she's been the prosecutor. She's been the one in the courtroom fighting for all that. And when a witness doesn't show up, that fight stops. We can't do anything. So they do need your help in that. Another thing that I will, and I've urged this at Block Watch, and I'll state it again, even here, being on the insurance side of things and knowing about risk. The biggest thing that you can do is light up your house, the exterior, as much as possible. It deters a lot of activity. It isn't going to deter at all, but that is better than a Ring camera. It's better than just light it up, have motion lights, whatever you can do. As lit as possible is always the best deterrent. Okay, I know that isn't always possible in the back of a yard, and I again, just like Mr. Lang said, Mr. Bruner, I am so sorry that you had to experience that. I also know that we need to do a better job with some things with our crime. I think our law director is she's a fireball, just knowing her, and she wants to go after a lot of people. And I think you're going to see that from her and her office, because her office will resonate that also. So congratulations, and I'm glad you're with us and fighting on our side. Law Director Moore. Mr. Bub and Mr. Wysant, congratulations, and I look forward to working with both of you. Been in communication already. I appreciate what I'm hearing. Now, Ryan, I haven't known you since you were this big, but Jim has known me since I was this big, and I've worked with Jim on a lot of different things, and he's a hardworking individual. And Ryan, I've worked with him for his years here on council. Hardworking individuals. We're going to get a lot of hard work out of that office, and I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to working with the two of them. And I think good things are happening in our city, and there's an example of some good things. I know some of you are not experiencing some not so good things. The trailer situation. Do I need to call the property maintenance in the morning about a vehicle that's unlicensed on a property, or are you going to take care of that? because it is illegal if it's unlicensed on a property. It's a junk vehicle and we can issue a citation. That's what I've been told in the past. If it has legal plates, it's okay, but if there's no plates or illegal plates, then we can write a citation. So I hope we can do something there. Mr. Lang has indicated about the ordinance. I think we need to definitely update that ordinance. I don't believe that trailers should be authorized, and if they are authorized, it should go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I think the language needs to be written to that effect in our city limits. As far as some other issues, Miss Blaney left, so I'm not going to even comment on that. Ms. Mossholder, I am going to say that I have done a little bit of research, and I'm going to get with the law director's office. But from a little bit of research that I've done on my own, and I'm not an attorney, and I don't claim to be, but I believe fentanyl strips are illegal in the state of Ohio, and therefore I don't think that we will be able to support fentanyl strips because it is illegal. And so we cannot promote anything that is illegal. So it's not anything against what you're trying to accomplish, but we're going to abide by the law also. But I'm still finalizing that. I don't have, like I said, I'm not an attorney. I'll probably yield to the law director's office, but I want to make sure that we're doing what's right. Okay. We do have a lot of issues facing Newark. I do believe that we have some obstacles, like I stated the last time in our last meeting in here. I think we're doing better. Can we always do better? Yes, we can always make improvements. I know that our safety director is here, and he will do anything and everything that he can. He's doing his best. Staffing is an issue right now, and we're trying to get better at that. We really are. And I think that it will get better. And finally, I just want to end my comments. We lost a great one in Colin Powell. He's somebody that I admired, and I've admired him my entire life that I've known of him. Being in the military and following him and reading his book, listening to him speak. Just a great man, somebody that you can admire. He could communicate to anybody and everybody, and he always made decisions that were for that particular incident. He didn't say that there's a rule book that you have to just, in this situation, you do this, this, and this. He always indicated there's no two identical situations, so you make decisions based on what is best with all the information that you have. I respect the man. I always respected his position. And it's a great loss that we've had when we lost General Powell. So my condolences. And, great man. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Mr. Bub, I appreciate the job you did on council all those years. You did a very nice job. We're here for the right reasons, so I certainly appreciate that. And also welcome to you, Jim and Trish, in your new jobs. I really look forward to working with all of you. I think you all will do a great job. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Again, if any of the neighbors to the trailer park would be interested in being part of that meeting, after the meeting, just come up here and we'll get your information. And a couple, three of you would like to. And let's see. And with that, our next meeting is November 1st at 5:45. Our committees at 7 o'clock is full council. That's the day before the election. Is our motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Lewis. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.